Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Rant Line Radio, episode 635, coming to you on Tuesday, November 25th. We're a day late, but we're going to look back at SC's loss to the Oregon Ducks up at Eugene, talking about just how close the Trojans were, or maybe weren't. Open up the mailbag. We got a huge mailbag, a lot of calls, a lot of emails, a lot of your thoughts from the Rotbots. As always, you can follow us on social media at Reign of Troy. Email us, reignoftroy@fansided.com. Our phone number is 818-643-7227. Sucker Woodsboro Show. I'm your host, Michael Castillo, joined along with my co-host here in the Reign of Troy studio in Los Angeles, powered by Fansided, Alicia Deratola.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. We are back a day late and a half hour late. We're 24 and a half hours late. Or we're just early. We 23 and a half hours early? No, because we're going to do
Because we're also going to do a Wednesday episode.
Yeah, we're also going to do a Wednesday episode. Although, I will say, a little programming note. The Wednesday episode will be later. It will be at 7 p.m. Pacific. 7 p.m.
And there's a good reason for that.
Little right after dark. Yeah, we have a special guest. You can probably figure it out given what this week is. So yeah, we're gonna have the turkey joining us because it's Thanksgiving, you know.
Well, yeah.
Did that not go well?
No.
Okay.
I mean,
I'm not calling him a turkey.
I mean, it sounds like you're calling him a turkey. That's
no,
all
I was
I'm
making
saying.
a Thanksgiving joke. No, Jake Merrifield from the Woodsboro Show is going to join us here in studio. We've got to figure out, got to do some little audio tests, video tests to figure out exactly how we can get three peeps on a pod, but we're going to do it, and we're going to have a good time. So join us then, live Wednesday night, 7 p.m. I know you probably want to go to the bar and see all your people from high school, right? I'm sure that's what you would rather do. But you might want to join us for a podcast instead.
I know this is a thing in a lot of different places, but
the most unrelatable thing of all time, by the way. I think
this is the least Los Angeles thing I could think of. Like, this just distinctly not Los Angeles.
This is true, because there's all those
like
transplants.
What bar would I go to where I would run into Notre Dame high school alumni, let alone Notre Dame high school alumni that were in my class?
You don't think you could find someplace on Ventura?
I mean, I'm sure but the thing is, like, a lot of kids don't even live around there. Sure. So,
yeah.
You know, I know what, like, bars that when my mom was a teacher, I know what bars the teachers went to. I don't know if they still go there, though.
I know where I could find some Narbonne grads. I know where I could go, and I will not be going there. You know. But yeah, I don't understand that thing at all. Like, it's like when you watch Hallmark movies and they're all like going back to their hometown for things. Like, can't relate to this. Definitely not an LA experience. Although it is an LA experience because there's so many freaking transplants. You know, I feel like every year there's a new TikTok of someone being like, "Is that snow? Is it snow on the mountains?
Oh my God, there's snow on the mountains.
You can see snow from Santa Monica. What? Yeah.
Yep.
So, anyways, let's talk about. You might be able to see snow from the Coliseum press box, albeit not for long on Saturday, because game time, 4:30 p.m. Pacific, SC and UCLA on NBC.
NBC, is that?
Yeah. WNBC.
There you go. That's the thing.
Sure, works for me.
4:30 is an ideal football. I mean, like, my ideal football start time is 5. 4:30 is in that same window. I'm really happy with 4:30.
Yeah, absolutely. Updated polls: SC down to number 19 in the AP, down to 20 in the coaches, 19th in SP Plus, and 11 in FEI.
The pride of FEI.
In 11th in FPI. FEI hadn't come out yet when I was putting this together.
Are you putting your FPI bullshit over my FEI.
FEI had not updated when I was putting this together.
Unbelievable.
So FEI is USC at 13th.
13th. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair.
And we will know the college football playoff ranking shortly.
This is true because it's a Tuesday.
The funny thing is that currently on ESPN, USC is leads Seton Hall by 2 with 24.5 seconds to go. So you all will get an update on USC men's basketball, followed shortly by an update on where USC is in the college football playoff rankings.
Seton Hall. What nickname? You have it off the dome?
Ooh. Are they like
Is
Knights or something?
Is it Blue Knights or something like that?
Pirates. It's Pirates.
It's just straight up Pirates?
It's straight up Pirates.
I wanted to say Musketeers, but I know that that's Xavier. I'm like, I feel like it's a Musketeer, but it's not a Musketeer. No, it's a pirate.
Yeah, it's like a pirate, like a caricature pirate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into SC and Oregon, which went down on Saturday. We talked about it a lot. We had a watch along. We had all of that stuff. The CarCast, which I'm sure you've listened to by now, probably if you're a dedicated Rotbot. SC loses 42-27. We've had a few days to digest. There's definitely been a lot of digesting over here because little inside baseball. Alicia spent the last, 72 hours getting into fights on Twitter. We've had group chats of friends.
Not fights, just arguments. Friendly arguments with people about a varying topics that that can be discussed. I've debated with people about the Lincoln Riley of it all. I've debated with friends about the USC and Oregon of it all. Over the last 20 years, which program has been more successful? My stance being that they've more or less been equally successful, depending on which measures of success you want to point to. Oregon has had more consistent success. USC has had higher success. They're not that far apart.
Since Pete Carroll left, how many national championship games has SC been to?
How many national championships has Oregon won?
Since Pete Carroll left, the same number as SC.
Yeah.
I don't.
You're the one who doesn't want to have this debate again.
I don't want to have this
debate.
I'm
willing to have the debate.
You're saying crazy things.
No. My point is, if you look at total wins across the last 20 years, if you look at bowl wins across the last 20 years, if you look at national titles across the last 20 years, all that kind of stuff. In the last 20 years,
20 seasons, it's both 0.
In the last, I've been going since 2000. Okay.
Sure.
Since 2000, USC and Oregon have won Oregon has won more games, but it's, not like far and away more games. USC has had the first half of that stretch more dominant than Oregon. Oregon has had the second half of that stretch more dominant than USC. In fact, Oregon's dominance basically starts the year that Pete Carroll slips up in 2009 and then leaves. So it's, I think that Oregon has undoubtedly been more successful than USC in the last 10, 15 years. And even
the last 17 seasons.
Well, but even that, because let's say 15 years, it's not like USC has been completely.
At least SC has won one conference championship.
Yeah, and Oregon has won 7, and Stanford won X number, and Washington won theirs.
We had this conversation in the group chat, and everybody in the group chat was like, I don't even know what point Alicia's even trying to make.
No, the point that I was making was I was arguing with our friend Saman, who was saying that 9-3 is USC's baseline, which is fine. But my whole argument was a USC that is not competing for national titles is underachieving. a USC that is not perennially in the top 10, a USC that is not matching what Oregon is and has done for the last 17 years, is a USC that's underachieving. That's it. That's all I was saying. Like, it's an underachievement to be in the position that USC currently is. Even if this is an improvement off of last year, it is still an underachievement of where USC should be in 2025. That's all I'm saying. USC should be doing what Notre Dame is doing and what Oregon is doing at the very least. Because guess what? Notre Dame and Oregon haven't actually won anything, but they are consistently in and around the top 10. And that is absolutely within reach for USC. There's no reason for USC to not be within reach of that, except for incompetence from within USC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. USC as a program has enough resources. The brand is strong enough. The draw of Los Angeles and everything else is strong enough that USC should be at least doing what the Oregons and Notre Dames of the world are doing and have been doing for the last decade and a half.
Right. If you're not going to win national championships, make it worth your while being relevant.
Yeah.
And being in all this, like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Oklahoma's another good example of where USC should be closer to. Mm-hmm. In that Oklahoma has had this sustained success of sort of always being in and around. They haven't broken through, but in and around is what your baseline should be in my view if you are USC. So that's just where I was at.
Sure.
But also,
this is kind of how.
But also, that argument kind of got spun off into three different people arguing three different things, and so then it was like we were arguing with each other, but only arguing with ourselves, and not realizing that the other people weren't arguing the same question as we were.
Sure.
So.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you've got a bunch of talking points. So
okay. Talking point number one.
Go for it.
Talking point number one. The topic of pessimistic, negative Alicia. I put this on Twitter, and I think it's pretty straightforward. So I'm literally just going to read my string of tweets, okay? This is my, not a referendum. This is my, like, statement of fact and statement of intent, my motto for the rest of the season. Okay, number one, USC has absolutely made progress this season. Number two, I don't think that progress is impressive enough to convince me that this coach is good enough to reach the highest levels. Number three, this coach is not going anywhere, not this year, and realistically not next year. Number four, I have faith in USC's athletic director and GM. Number five, I expect the GM to improve the construction of the roster. Number six, therefore, I expect USC to improve going forward. Number seven, I don't expect that improvement to result in significant achievement, i.e. a conference title or CFP win under this staff. Number eight, acknowledging that, I don't want to put any more energy into debating how I feel. Number nine, I believe my reasoning is sound, and that's it. That's all that matters. Number 10, I'm not going to focus only on the positive, but I do think I'm done framing anything through the lens of the head coach. My position on the head coach is clear. I don't need to hammer it home. So that's where I'm at. If you disagree with me about your opinion about Lincoln Riley, I get it. I understand it. I think everyone can have really reasonable reasons for feeling the way that they do about about Lincoln Riley and the state of the program. But sort of, I've said my piece on that, and I am interested in looking at the game that USC played this weekend and the games going forward with the sort of like Lincoln Riley question being set off to the side, because there is no answer to it right now. He will be the head coach in 2026, and I'm fairly confident, because I'm not a irrational hater. I'm fairly confident that he's going to win enough games next year to keep his job. So it doesn't do me any good, and it doesn't do you guys any good for me to just keep harping on that, when, just like in 2019, you know, we're right back in 2019, where I think we all knew that Clay Helton wasn't the guy, but realistically it was going to take longer than that to move on from him. So, you know, whatever. Do you have anything to say about that, Michael?
No, so MG's Raiders in the chat says, why does Michael not agree with her? He never seems to get mad at SC losing games that they lose, and the idiocy that has happened over the years.
I have an answer for that. If you don't,
well, hold on. What's your answer?
Because you grew up in the 90s, and we've had this conversation before. Your perception of USC, like your initial perception of USC, was one that wasn't, that was sort of in a place where they weren't at the level of expectation that I have, and so
this is one of the I saw sort of, I think it was a TikTok where like it was a clip of Petros talking about this stuff, and like I tend to think that like some of Petros's SC takes are a little unreasonable, but I agree with the point that he made, and this is like goes back to the 90s thing. Like I grew up in the 90s. I was watching SC football in the 90s. I've talked about it before. I got so excited when SC got bowl eligible. You talk about the 2002 season, SC beats Oregon. That's the game that you know that like SC's for real. But also like earlier that month, SC beats Washington, who was really good. Like they were, sort of like the class of the conference at the time, right? SC beats Washington in 2002 to go to 5-2. And in my head, I couldn't fathom 5-2 because 5-2, like the record in the newspaper looks so good, 5-2. Like that was mind blowing to me that SC could be 5-2. Like this is sort of the reality of it. But like I do get mad. I don't get mad the way Alicia gets mad, where I'm not fire and brimstone, in part because like I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I'm tired of this conversation. I'm tired of talking. I'm tired how everything is either, oh my God, SC is good. They just beat Michigan and thoroughly outplayed them. Hop on board the hype train. Or it's, we are miserable. We're dog ass. We suck. We should fire the coach. The coaching is terrible. This is actually just Clay Helton all over again. And it's just like, I hate that yo-yo. I hate it. I don't enjoy it. It's not good for my mental health. It's not fun to hop on a podcast and go through that yo-yo every week. Like, it's not fun. It's not enjoyable. It doesn't mean that I'm not mad that SC isn't winning. I'm absolutely frustrated that SC isn't winning. But, like, there's also some sort of reality here. You talk about how, like, if SC's not competing for national championships, that they're failing. And this is where I go back to the point that I was trying to bring up with what Petros was saying of like, yeah, like you've made the point that like, this isn't we don't need to talk about Pete Carroll like the wooden era at UCLA with UCLA basketball, because there's been other eras. And that's true. There was the Howard Jones era.
USC is uniquely successful in multiple decades. Like most...
Yes.
There are only a handful of teams that can say that. 3
runs over 4 head coaches, right?
Yeah.
But, like, SC had 7 top 10 finishes in 7 years. There were actually 7 top 5 finishes, 7 top 4 finishes in the AP poll. All in a row, 7 years with Pete Carroll. If you go back 47 seasons, SC has done it 12 times. Including the 7 with Pete Carroll. And so, like, that's 40 seasons since which they've done it 5 times before and after Pete Carroll. So, like, we can talk about how, like, this is a disappointment because this is, like, not good enough because of what the 70s were like, what it was like in 2005, what it was like in 1932. And I agree. Like, that's SC's peak, absolutely. But the reality is that over the last 50 years, this is a USC football program that has been largely mediocre, that has won 8 and 9 games more often than not. Like, that's where this program is. And I'm not saying that I am content with that. It's more so that, like, they won 6 games in the regular season last year, and they've won 9 games this year. We predicted they would be worse than they are. Like, choosing to just be fire and brimstone, it feels like a waste of time to me. I think that Lincoln Riley is the guy? Probably not. But also, there's like 2 dudes in college football. Like, there really isn't, like, how many active coaches have won a national championship right now?
Dabo. Day.
Ryan Day. Kirby Smart.
Kirby. And then obviously Saban retired.
Retired.
Takes that away.
Are you gonna? You can't even argue Brian Kelly again, winning one at a lower level.
No, but again, like my point on this is not that USC should have won a national title in the last 15 years. It's simply that it is unacceptable that USC is so far away from even competing in that. Away. They're 9-3, and like the idea of far away acts as if they have a losing record. No. What I mean is they're 9-3 with the 3 losses to the actually good teams on their schedule.
Yeah. And guess what? SC is, find out Natty says, number 17 in the college football playoff rankings.
There you go.
Yeah, teams that are ranked 17th in the college football playoff rankings, that's what their schedule looks like. That's what they are. They are what they are.
Which is, again, my whole point. At this stage, I don't want USC to be ranked 17th as seeing it, it's an improvement that USC is ranked 17th. Like, that's the problem, is that, like, okay, yeah, it's an improvement. I've acknowledged that.
Yeah.
They're 8-3. Yeah, Iliam points out they're 8-3. Okay, we're going to talk about UCLA tomorrow, so I'm not going to get super into it, but I have to tell you guys, I have
the certainty which everyone is saying is 9-3
certainty with which we are talking about 9-3 is putting an irrational fear into my brain, because
there's some irony.
And I say irrational because if you look at any of the numbers going into the UCLA game, we should be talking like 9-3 as a given, but we aren't talking like they should. We're talking like they are, and it is scaring the shit out of me. I'm just saying. Okay.
Yes. I agree.
Okay, but the larger point is, and I think that it's fine if you sort of protect your sanity and you don't want to get riled up. And I think it's fine if people get riled up. And I think we all cope with disappointment and success and this and that differently. And I think we all have different standards for what will make us happy. The thing that I try to impress upon everybody is, like, my number one thing, and I know your number one thing, is authenticity. We're not going to sit here and act a different way than we feel. So if I am disappointed by USC in a 9-3 season, that is simply because it's how I feel. And that's fine. I am perfectly willing to acknowledge that a 9-3 season is a solid place for USC to be, that it's an improvement on last year, that it is a potential building block for USC or springboard for USC, all of these things. I'm willing to accept and acknowledge all of those things. But that doesn't change the way I feel, which is I have watched USC lose games to Oregon and Notre Dame and Illinois in a fashion that leaves me uninspired.
Yeah. Danny in the chat says there's always a large gap between your 11-1 teams and the 9-3s. Yes, there is. There is, but like there's also like there's like the gaps are not. It's very like sort of exponential, or like in the sense that like Indiana and Ohio State are thoroughly a notch, I think, better than the rest of the teams in the top 10. But then the rest of the teams in the top 10 are like a notch better than the teams that are like 11 to 20, right? And the teams that are 11 to 20 are a significant notch better than the teams that are 20 to 50, right? And then 50 to 100, and then 100 and below, right? Like, but like the gaps sort of get wider as you go down. And so Is it easier to go from 6-6 to 9-3? Absolutely, especially given that we've talked about it ad nauseum.
6-6.
They should have been 9-3 last year based on how they played on the football field. Anyways, like not a lot has changed in that part of it, but in football is a you're graded on a binary scale of wins and losses. And last year, they lost games that they shouldn't. This year, they have not lost any games that they shouldn't.
Yes, they have.
No,
they should not have lost to Illinois.
I'm talking about, like, there's a difference between losing to a ranked Illinois on the road and losing to Maryland. That's what I mean. Like,
yes, but USC was also a touchdown favorite in that game.
You get what I'm saying.
I get what you're saying. I'm just also saying, it's again, you've improved from where you were, which was losing to fucking Maryland. I'm sorry for the language.
Correct. Yeah. No, yes. We agree here.
Yeah.
I'm what I'm saying is, like, you didn't, there's no egregious loss on the thing. The SC was very chalk this season, and you have to be chalk to be anything else. And it's not to go ad nauseum about the what's his name, the Colorado quarterback from 2002 who works for Fox, and my brain's not working today. Joel Klatt thing.
Oh yeah.
The
lose big,
lose
small,
close, win close, win big.
Win
like
big, yeah.
I think there's a big part of that, and I think the other part about, like, talking about, like, where you are and how to go forward and everything, like, I guess one of the points that I just feel like I keep needing to emphasize, and this is not a defense of Lincoln Riley, because things are not good enough in the grand scheme of things. If this was your down year, you'd be in a very good spot, but, like, this shouldn't be your up year in a 3-year stretch when you include the previous 2, right?
Yeah.
But when I say that he's probably not the guy to go on a Nick Saban type run at SC or a Pete Carroll type run at SC, like, again, there's like 2 dudes who maybe are in the country. Like it's extremely hard to find. Those guys are rare, and those guys get statues built out of them in front of their stadiums for a reason. It's so insane. Also, like, and this is the frustrating part, SC finally, for the first time in 100 years, went out and put their money where their mouth was, and they got somebody with a proven track record. And this is a prime example of a proven track record gives you a better odds. That's going out and getting your 5-star, number 1 overall recruits. But for every, who's a great SC recruit that was great that you knew was going to be Adoree Jackson. For every Adoree Jackson, there's a Whitney Lewis, right?
Yeah.
Lincoln Riley's not a Whitney Lewis per se. He might be a Patrick Turner.
Yeah. But,
like, Patrick Turner won you some games. You know what I mean? And I guess the point is, like, you look at other teams. We're in an era of college football where, like, there is no Nick Saban right now. Mm-hmm. There is, like, Kirby Smart is sort of like the modern Nick Saban, if anything, but, like, he is still not infallible. Ryan Day was a guy everybody on 11 Warriors and Bucknut or whatever their sites are wanted him fired a year ago, and he still won the national championship weeks later. Jim Harbaugh was someone that Michigan forced to take a pay cut and then won a national championship. And obviously, we can talk about the cheating scandal, all that stuff. But, like,
if Riley took a pay cut, I would feel differently about things.
But it's not your money.
You know what I mean? Not my money.
And I know that, like, it's donor money, and so, like, saying it's not your money, like, isn't exactly a completely true statement in that sense. But, like,
again, this I guess back what I'm to, like, the idea that USC hasn't been investing. Like, USC has been paying their head coach,
yeah,
including the mediocre ones, well above average this entire time and paying staff.
Yes.
Investing a lot in staff this entire time, and still it's been.
Yeah. I guess my frustration more than anything, and it's my frustration with having to be on a podcast and come and talk about this every week and all that kind of stuff on top of everything else. And this is not me complaining about doing it.
At the same time, like, you've willfully participated in this conversation for 20 minutes.
Against my will. But,
no, because I'm not asking you to, but hold on, back and forth.
Hold on. The problem with all of this, and it was the problem during the Clay Helton era too, is that everything is true.
Yeah.
Like, I understand getting upset that Lincoln Riley said that they're close. I understand getting upset last year when they were 3-3 and he said they were a couple plays away. I understand getting upset when Clay Helton said that they still controlled their own destiny in the Pac-12 South. But, like, those were all true statements to their own degrees, right?
Yeah.
The problem with SC football right now is that everything is true. SC is close in the sense that, like, if they would have won Saturday, they'd be a playoff team. And if they stop a 2-point conversion against Utah 3 years ago, they're a playoff team. If Caleb Williams doesn't mess up his leg, they're a playoff team. If all these ifs, like, yes, they are close that you can say all these ifs. The other thing that's true is that it's not good enough on a per year level. It's not good enough on a long-term projection level. They're not recruiting enough. They haven't not obviously they're recruiting better going forward than number one class and all that stuff, but, like, they don't have the talent that Ohio State has right now. At the same time, there's more talent on this roster than what, say, Georgia Tech has.
Or Vanderbilt.
Or Indiana.
Certainly Indiana.
Or SMU last year. Or all these teams.
ASU last year.
ASU, like, teams who have made the playoff or have flirted with the playoff. All that stuff. SC has more talent than those teams. SC probably has more talent than Texas Tech.
And Ole Miss, I would wager.
Like, you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
like, the problem is that all of these things are true, which then makes all of these arguments viable to a degree. And then you add on to the fact that, like, college football is something that is so passionate. It is the most passionate sport in America. It's the closest thing we have to football in Europe, right? Like, nobody cares more about their team than a college football fan in America. Easily. Like, it's not even close. Your diehard Laker fan is not psychotic in the way that a diehard college football fan is about their college football team. It's not close. I'm sorry. You might think that you're a diehard Denver Nuggets fan. You are not a more diehard Nuggets fan than an Alabama fan who literally drives the poison trees at Auburn. You know what I mean? Like, it's completely different. College football fans, the fervor, the seriousness, the passion, all of that is unrelated to any other sport. So you add on that factor to the fact that all of these arguments can be true, you end up with sprinkling in some online culture, which makes it to where it's really easy to make any sort of thing. Podcast equipment, very cheap nowadays. You and I can just sit here as unqualified dorks and just say whatever the hell we want into a microphone. People can type whatever they want into our chat, into message boards, whatever. And so when you have a system in which everything is factually true to some degree, anybody can say anything, every fan base is rabid. USC fans in particular are very rabid at the at the tip of the spear. The rotbots that are listening to this, you're the 1% of the 1%, right? Like, you're the people that are in the Coliseum early. You're all that stuff. It just makes it all the more exhausting at times because, like, what else is there to say other than like, yeah, SC's 9-3. They're better than they are last year. This is good. They're moving in the right direction, but they're also not in the place that they should be. But also they've made some good hires. But also, like, I don't know where I'm going with any of this.
I don't know where you're going with this either.
But like the point is,
all I'm hearing is that, you know, things are complex. But the point is,
yes,
I think my point here is that things are complex, and you still choose to participate in the conversation for 30 minutes. Like, if you're tired of the conversation, then stop having the conversation. If you don't want to debate the state of USC football or what should be expected of USC football, then you don't have to.
It's not that I don't want to debate those things. I'm just saying that, like, it's all tiring. It's all tiring.
Yeah, it's tiring rooting for a team that doesn't achieve at the level that it does, and getting berated by people when you say that. You know, from my perspective, like, it's tiring to feel like my reasoning is sound and then get told that I'm, you know, that I'm wrong because I'm being critical.
Yeah.
Not that you're doing that, but, like, you know, it's tiring for me too.
Yeah. All right.
Let's move on to the actual game, because I have a lot of thoughts on the actual game.
Sure.
I think, again, I'm not framing any of this through the head coach necessarily. I'm more framing it through the question of how close was USC actually to winning that game, if we're really looking at it. I'm just going to come straight out with this and say I don't think USC was actually that close, and I don't think USC was close enough to say that USC was close in that game. Okay. I think that it's an overstating of the performance on both sides of this particular game. Mm-hmm. Here's an example. PFF grades came out. Tanook Hines was USC's highest rated offensive player at 79.7. He was the only offensive player in the green. Keyshawn Silver was USC's highest graded defender at 68.1. He was one of like 3 guys in the green. Mm-hmm. So the performances, I mean, four of USC's 5 offensive linemen were 4 of USC's 5 worst graded players on offense. Kaylon Miller, Alani Noah, Jean-Ray Reed, and Tobias Raymond were all in the 40s, like low. So again, like these performances were not good. Mm-hmm. Let's go through the moments that cost USC the game. The question of, you know, if this one thing changes, USC is in the game. So there's obviously the punt return touchdown in the second quarter, which is compounded by the fact that Mayava throws an interception on the next drive. And then it's further compounded by the fact that Oregon goes on to score a touchdown on their ensuing drive, despite committing 4 back-breaking penalties that USC lets them get away with because Desmond Stevens leaps over the center and extends that drive. So, okay, let's talk about, like, change one thing. Change the punt return touchdown. All right, if we're going to keep it real simple, really, really simple, and say 1 for 1, even though we change this one thing, we don't change the outcome that follows immediately after. USC forces a field goal, and that field goal is missed, and USC gets the ball back. What happens after that? Jaden Mayava throws an interception on the next drive, and then USC's defense gives Oregon a touchdown on the most penalty-plagued drive in the history of football.
No, the field goal miss, they SC missed their own field goal after that.
No, SC misses the field goal at the end of the half.
Right, and that's right.
That's after Oregon's touchdown.
Right, which was on the field goal miss, the doink with the Desmond Stevens penalty. If the Desmond Stevens penalty is not called, SC has the ball with 2+ minutes to go to tie the game.
No, because the punt return
was earlier.
Yes. So yeah, you take away the punt return. I think I misspoke.
Okay. Take
away the punt return, and the following drive is Mayava throwing an interception, Oregon following through with the touchdown, and then the punt
return is hard because there's no evidence that the defense wouldn't have given up a score there anyways.
Well, yes, and I bring up the punt return because I plugged in this was actually kind of fun. I plugged in USC's game book. I mean, the game book for the game between USC and Oregon. I plugged it into ChatGPT and I asked it to sort of calculate some win probability stuff and all that kind of stuff. And so take this. We're trusting that ChatGPT did this right.
Definitely trusting ChatGPT here.
But in terms of this, like I do kind of trust ChatGPT here because it's simple calculations more than anything. With a game book that has everything laid out in sort of black and white, right? Mm-hmm. So according to ChatGPT, USC's highest win probability of the game was at 61%. That was after USC scored the first touchdown. It's 50-50 when USC scores to tie the game. And then it pops out to Oregon 76% after they score the punt return touchdown. Mm-hmm. From then on, Oregon maintains a win probability of 66 or better the entire way through after that punt return touchdown. So basically, like, the punt return touchdown is the thing that flips the win expectancy irreparably. So that's one error that USC makes that then...
In part because it just fast forwards.
Yes. So that...
Because you essentially... You fast forward you take out the 3 minutes that Oregon could have taken to drive down the field. And so that's why there's a big chunk.
Yes.
Because it's a big swing.
Yes. And just, I think statistically, if you score on special teams, because if you think about like success rate and all that kind of stuff, mm-hmm. which I'm going to talk about a little bit more later, offense and defense, like your offense is only going to be successful on so many plays. Even a good success rate is still, less than 3/4 of success. So you are likely to not score touchdowns on a certain number of drives. If you are able to score on special teams, you are then giving your offense that cushion of it's okay if you don't score on that, fourth drive out of 3 because you've already picked up an extra sort of statistical advantage by getting 7 points from a special teams play, which is a low probability of getting a touchdown from, if that makes any sense. Danny says, no way we were 60% only leading 7-1 in the first quarter. Well, the problem is that like win probability...
It doesn't start at 50-50.
No, it doesn't start at 50-50. So USC goes up because they score first, but it's the least impactful win probability of the game because so much of the game is left. So it's just because USC is ahead, at any point you're ahead, you're more likely to win than the other team. Mm-hmm. So, if you're tied, it's 50-50. But so my broader point there is USC gives up the punt return touchdown, which is spotting Oregon points that USC's defense doesn't need to spot, if they want to go out and win. That is critical error number 1. Critical error number 2 is in the second half when Oregon turns the ball over on downs and gives USC good field position to start their drive with a chance to, I believe it would make it 21-28 in the third quarter. USC's following drive is a 3-and-out. Well, 3-and-out, where they are stuffed on a run for 0 yards. There are 2 incompletions on second and third down, and then Mayava does the arm punt on fourth down. So that's critical error number 2 is you're given a lifeline because Oregon is up by two touchdowns. You're in a hole, and Oregon has now just handed you back a chance to get points of some variety with just a few yards, and USC basically gets none. So you have a critical error on special teams, and you have a critical error on offense. And then later on, after a solid defensive performance for much of the third quarter, USC finally does break through after Kennedy Urlacher's interception, and they score to make it 28-21, at which point USC's defense breaks. They break. The drive that USC goes on, that Oregon goes on after USC makes it 28-21 is a game-winning drive. They go 7 plays, 75 yards. The plays are 13-yard run, 5-yard run, 10-yard pass, 11-yard run, 4-yard run, 4-yard run, 28-yard touchdown pass. USC's defense didn't get a single win on that drive. Oregon marched down the field with ease and scored. And then USC goes 4 and out on the next drive, and effectively it's over. So there you have your critical error on defense. Now, if we could point to one critical error in the game, like just say it's special teams, that's one thing. Yeah, you're one play away. If we're pointing to critical errors and we're basically just narrowing it down to the most critical of the critical errors, you go, well, you've also got one on offense, and you've also got the sequence on defense. So how close were you actually? In realistic terms, USC made a lot of mistakes in a game that Oregon made plenty of their own mistakes, but USC just simply outpaced Oregon in the question of mistakes. And some of that in the second half offensively is because they're chasing. And so I'll give them that. But like, even in the first half, USC was not considerably more, like Oregon's net success rate in the first half is still better than USC's by a pretty decent margin. I don't know if I wrote it down here though. At halftime, Oregon's net yards per play was 37%. Their net success rate was plus 17. That's plus 37, plus 17. And the only area that USC was winning is in explosiveness, and even then, USC was plus 2%. On explosiveness. So even if you just take, well, USC was so close in the first half, like Oregon was outpacing them already in the first half, and that gap just got bigger in the second half, even with USC's defense, shutting things down. So I'll end this discussion, or this sort of my part of this discussion, with just a few things, like how close was USC to actually matching Oregon in this game? Well, Oregon wins pretty much every statistical battle against USC, some of them considerably. First down efficiency, Oregon averages 4.7 yards per play on first down. Mm-hmm. That's game-winning first down efficiency. USC averages 2.5. Third down efficiency, Oregon converts 58.3% of their third downs. USC converts 46.7, which is pretty damn good considering, but still far less than Oregon. On third downs, the average per pass attempt, Oregon averages 9.3 yards per attempt on third downs. The average to go that they had on third downs was 6, which explains why they were so good on third downs. Yeah. USC's average per attempt is a perfectly reasonable 6.2, but USC needs an average of 6.4. So even if you're good on third down, because you're not good on first or second, you're still in a hole. The average yards per rush, I think this is rushing attempt on third down. Oregon averaged 12 yards on rushing attempts, and USC was 5.2. So, like, again, these are good, but
yeah,
can
I hop in here?
Yeah.
Yes. Oregon wins every battle statistically. I think that there's nuance here, because like, was SC close? Well, they were within a score in the fourth quarter. So on a very simple binary yes, no, the answer to me is yes if you're within a score in the fourth quarter. However, in the second half, SC's defense, we talked about this in terms of the Notre Dame game earlier this year, that SC's defense in the second half of the Notre Dame game significantly better than the first half, but they still gave up scoring drives. And the offense didn't finish off their drives, and so it didn't matter, right? And that's, I think, is essentially what happened in this game too.
Well, USC's defense puts USC in a hole in the first half, and USC's offense fails to dig themselves out of it in the second.
Exactly, because the second half, SC's defensive performance in the second half is it's not the 2008 defense.
Oh, it's perfectly adequate.
But it's perfectly adequate. Yes, they hold Oregon to 3.5 yards per carry. Absolutely, you take that. You hold them to under 5 yards per play You absolutely take that. If the defensive effort in the second half was on both sides, the first and the second, like you transpose that everywhere, the offensive hurdle is significantly lower. But the problem is, would they have still overcome that? It's hard to say. When you look at the second half offense, was basically only moving the football because of pass interference penalties. And part of that is because SC's got the best receiving core, maybe outside of Columbus or coin flip, whatever. Like, at least the top 2 receiving cores in the country, right? SC and Ohio State. And because of that, it is very viable. A viable defensive strategy against SC is to just hold up the receivers. Notre Dame did it. Oregon did it. Every team that SC faces does it. And that makes SC productive down the field in terms of moving the ball down the field, progressing the ball down the field, getting into the red zone, getting into create scoring opportunities, while not affecting things like success rate, yards per play, any of those things. And it allows SC to be in a position to score points and be close on the score line, aka be within a score in the fourth quarter. But like, if you're not actually, like, in the second half, SC gained 3.8 yards per play. That's horrific.
Yeah.
It's horrific for what SC was doing on offense, right? Like, SC was better offensively in the first half. They were way better in the first quarter. SC in the first quarter had 134 yards. That's more than they had in the entire second half.
But
right?
part of that too is just like, if you're thinking about statistics, like, and I know statistics aren't the end all be all, because you can have outliers, and the way USC was going to win this game was by riding outliers.
Sure.
But realistically, if you think about, like, again, how close was USC? One could argue that USC used up their explosive, quote unquote, luck on the big explosive plays that they hit in the first half, and that not hitting those plays or only getting the 15 yards from a PI from them was just a reversion back to the mean. You know, like, you just because you hit a big explosive play in the first half doesn't mean that you are guaranteed to hit that same big explosive play in the second half. And that's essentially what happened to USC. All the big plays that they had were in the first half. And then in the second half, it was the PI offense. And the PI offense it can certainly be effective, but there's a big difference between like a 40-yard completion and a 15-yard first, game.
Yes. Yeah.
Especially when you can't run the ball, because USC was relying on chunk pass plays, and those are very low percentage. And yes, sometimes you'll get lucky and you'll have that high percentage. But again, statistically, if you are living and dying on low percentage pass plays, then you can't be shocked when your offense tanks in the second half, because all of those low percentage pass plays are low percentage.
Yeah. I think the thing that makes it hard for me with, like, in terms of things like win probability and using that as the explainer for closeness, like, it should. I think logically it should help with closeness. I think post-game win expectancies, like SP Plus has, should absolutely help with closeness and all that kind of stuff. Like, I also think that, like, there's a you want both of those things. Like, the reality is, at any point there could be a fumble that gets you back into the game, right?
Yes.
And like, and also the other side of it is you still have to force that fumble. You still have to do all those things. I guess one of the questions I have for you is, last year, the Notre Dame game last November, do you think SC was closer in that game or this game?
I would say closer in that game, simply because I think that USC's offense was, from start to finish, more efficient than the offense that we saw in this particular game.
Sure.
Therefore, when USC is driving into the red zone with the chance to tie, like the fact that USC, where was that interception at? Like the 20?
It was.
Or 30?
Well, it was in the end zone, right? Because
Yeah, that's right. So they were like inside the 15 or inside the 20 at the very least.
Yeah.
The fact that USC got to that point makes them so much closer than USC was simply tying the game and then having to kick the ball back to Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time they got the ball back offensively, they were already back down 2 touchdowns. So, realistically, having the ball with the chance to USC never had the ball with the chance to tie
in this game. Correct. Yes. I
in the
think
second half of this game.
Right. Where SC makes it a 1-score game, but they don't get the stop after that to give them a chance to go and tie it.
Yeah.
In the Notre Dame game, SC makes it a 1-score game in the fourth quarter last year, and then they get a stop to go out and tie it.
Yeah.
But then they throw the 2 pick sixes, and then there's a consolidation touchdown at the end, so they still lose by 2 touchdowns, right? But it's just interesting that you look at the win probability just on ESPN's page, right? Like in that game when SC is sacks Riley Leonard with 6 minutes to go in the game. When Notre Dame punched the ball with 5 minutes and 58 seconds to go to give SC the ball to go for a chance and go to win it, which is the drive that ends up with the first pick six that Jaden Mayava throws in that game.
Isn't that to tie?
To tie, yes. To go to tie. Sorry, I said to win it. To tie it. To tie
I mean,
it.
unless they went for 2. But.
Yeah. But I meant to tie it.
Yeah.
Notre Dame's up 35-28. The win probability at that point for SC is only 11%. It's still 88%.
Because again, the probability.
The problem there is that there's less game.
Well, because
right?
There's less game, and also you have to factor in probability isn't just the probability that you will go down and score, but the probability that you will go down and score, and then the opposing team won't go back and score themselves.
Yeah, there's all these things there.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely. I guess what I'm saying is to me that on the surface, having it looks like the highest that it gets for SC, at least that I can scroll through, is 13.8% in the fourth quarter against Notre Dame last year. I think SC was closer in that game than 13.8% eye test wise for watching the game. Mathematically, that doesn't bear it out, and that makes logical sense given how all of that works out. And so, I guess what I'm saying is, if you are within a possession, then yes, I think on a very technical aspect, you are close. Does that mean that you are win probability close? That is a different thing. Well, and this goes back to the thought of the problem is that everything is true here. Because yes, SC was a fluke fumble away, scoop and score from tying the game in both of those instances. At the same time, they could have done that and still given up a kick return immediately afterwards too.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Well,
and
you
can't
play
the if game forever.
If we're talking about the ESPN win probability factor, USC is never better than is in the single digit % win probability throughout the fourth quarter. And even when USC goes and makes it a 1-score game, an 8-point game, their win probability is at best 7.8.
Yeah.
So again, it's because you have to get a stop, then you have to score, then you have to get a 2-point conversion, and then you need to get another stop so that Oregon doesn't just retake the lead from you.
Yes.
And the probability of any of that happening is very low. Again, it's one thing if it's you need one of those things to happen, but USC needed a handful of things to happen, 3 different times in this game.
Yeah,
even have a shot.
In part because they prevented themselves from getting those things to go their way because they stall before the half. They have the penalty that takes away the doink, all those things that if they would have, paid those things off in the first half, they would have been able to have more of an opportunity in the second half. But
But what I will push back on is even if USC gets the doink and gets the ball back and scores to tie, instead of giving up the go ahead by 2 touchdowns scenario. Let's say USC is tied with Oregon at halftime. in terms of probability, and I recognize that the stats, again, don't rule the day.
In terms of win probability, it still probably says that Oregon has a 65% chance.
I'm not saying like win probability. What I'm saying is the likelihood based on all of the data that we have, even from the first half in terms of success rate, yards per pass, yards per rush, all of that kind of stuff.
Doesn't bode well for us.
Is that USC was not going to keep up with Oregon.
Correct.
In the second half, even if they were tied at halftime, based on all of those metrics. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
Yes.
Now, we can't account for, there could have been a pick six, or it could have been a scooping score, or could have been USC scoring a special teams touchdown, whatever it may be. But yes, but again, like I think that if you just look at the raw data of how each team performed, Oregon was always destined to win the game, simply because they performed better in pretty much every metric.
Yes, and all of this is way getting down into like things that are just ridiculous. But I guess my question is, then what do you consider close? Do you have to be leading a game to be considered close? Like, because if being within a score in a fourth quarter game, despite not having the play-by-play stats go your way, is if that's not close, then what is close? Like literally leading, is that what qualifies as close to you?
No, what I would say is take it back to the Notre Dame game last year. And this is something that USC didn't do in this game. I will give you close if you have the ball with a chance to tie.
Okay.
But my problem with this game is that USC never had the ball with a chance to tie in the end.
Because they were always one possession back.
They were always one possession back, and the defense realistically wasn't going to hold enough to give them that chance. The offense wasn't going to score on every drive they had, and the defense wasn't going to stop Oregon on enough drives to say that USC actually had a sequence where they would have, where we could say that it was more likely than not that USC would have had the opportunity here
because
to go
the stop that they needed, they got in the first half and gave away.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, in the third quarter, they got the stop that they needed with the turnover on downs.
All right, we've got a million. We're on pace for like a 4-hour episode, and I don't have the energy for it. So
okay.
Let's get to.
We can roll through over under real quick.
Okay. Let's get to the Radometer first. All right. When last we spoke with the Radometer after the Iowa game, fans were feeling good. Ratbots were feeling good. It was at 7.42. Alicia, where do you think it is now after the Oregon loss? Because I feel like for you it's like a 0, but where do you think the Ratbots have it?
I would put it firmly around a 5.
A 5.
Yeah.
Okay. The Ratbots have chimed in.
Okay.
It is a 6.86. So it dropped back a half point.
Yeah, I think that's just an acknowledgement that this season is 9 wins is fine. This season is an improvement on last year. It's not a disaster season. That I think that's a fair assessment.
Somebody said 3 with just one word in the little thing. Just said defense.
I mean,
somebody said 10 and left it blank. Okay. Rama Murdy chimed in and said 8. The Oregon game didn't go our way, but we're having a good season. Can still finish 10-3. Somebody said 8. I predicted 7-5. A win over the Bruins next week would put us at 9-3. There's some 6s in there, so like it's sort of all over the place. But there's not a lot of super negative scores in there. It's higher than I thought it was, especially because the way that these things go is you win and you feel really good, you lose and you feel really bad, right? And I guess I am surprised that the loss didn't tank the Radometer.
Well, there's a universe, Michael. You have to leave room for the universe where USC gets blown out 45-0. At which point,
right,
that's a very different Radometer.
Because they were close.
Because they were close, yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's get over under.
So you're going over.
I'm going bold. I'm going under. I got 3 under the tank. I'm going to do an under here.
all right, full disclosure, we don't have the statistics of who did what this past week. So we're going to be going in blind into the final week of the regular season. We have the data. We just haven't run the numbers. So take
for
that
the Rotbots.
For the Rotbots, yeah. Over under lines, it was over under 7.5, 10+ yard rushes for Oregon. We both said over. It was under. It was 4. It was 4. So like
that was a surprise.
Yeah. Over under 215.5 USC passing yards. We both said over. It was way over 330. It was the most that SC had or Oregon had allowed by over 100 yards, which is big for the Trojans there. Over under 9.5 second half points for Oregon. We both said over. It was over. It was 14. I talked about 10 being the number, and that if you would have set the number at 10.5, I would have taken the under.
Yeah. 14 feels like a fine. Like 14 was a manageable output for that second half.
It was a manageable output.
Now,
if
granted,
you would have allowed 14 in the first half.
Yeah.
Too.
Does Oregon only score 14 if they need to score more? There's a lot of questions there. But yeah, sure. Defense only giving up 14, certainly progress.
Yeah. 14 on the road against Oregon in the second half isn't a red flag, but it isn't a green one either.
Yeah.
Next one is over under 4.5 Oregon tackles for loss. You said under, I said over. It was over at 6. Makai Lemon receiving yards, over under 76.5. That's what he had against Notre Dame. You took the over. I took the under. It was under. It was 34. Weird game for Makai Lemon because it was almost like the inverse of the Notre Dame game. The Notre Dame game, he had 76 yards but was not very impactful. This game, he had 34 yards but was impactful, in part because he accounted for 3 touchdowns.
Yeah. Yeah,
so like
that's the crazy thing is that like if you looked at just the receiving yards, you'd think that Oregon had him bottled up.
Yeah,
but you aren't bottling up a player who scores 3 touchdowns. You know?
Yeah, I guess like if you're Oregon though, you probably still take that trade, in the sense that like you limited the damage yards wise. Mm-hmm. At the same time, you probably wouldn't take that trade given how good of a game Tanuk Hines had.
I mean, USC had 2 receivers with 100 yards.
Yeah. So statistically, SC's receivers absolutely pass with flying colors, despite Makai Lemon only having 34 yards. Last one was over under 3.5 USC trips inside the red zone. You said over. I took under. It was 4. You got that one. I didn't. Mm-hmm. You put it all together. I think you got these numbers wrong.
No, because we got the bonus with Julian.
Well, sorry. Yes, there's the bonus from Julian that says over under 1.5 USC game day picks. We both said under. I got to be honest. Do you know the answer there?
They was across the way for Oregon.
Okay. So it was under.
Yeah.
But. You said that you went 4-3 and I went 5-1. I didn't go 5-1. I went 4-2. The only one I got right. I mean, I got 2 wrong.
You got the trips in the red zone wrong.
The 10-yard rushes.
And the 10-yard rushes.
Yeah. So I went 5-2.
Okay, 5-2.
5-2. Yeah.
Right.
You went 4-3. Yeah. I don't know what you guys did, but congratulations to the winners. You guys did fantastic. Let's get to the mailbag. We got a huge mailbag. At this rate, we're honestly looking at a 3-hour episode, so let's go to that.
You've got mail.
All right. Voicemail from L.A. Fred. Here's what he had to say.
Hey, Rant, it's Roy. This is L.A. Fred calling. Now, humor me for a second as I pull out my list because I don't want to miss any of the highlights. A kickoff out of bounds. A tackle on an Oregon punt returner that clearly signaled for a fair catch. Allow an 85-yard punt return for a touchdown. Stop Oregon's drive, force them to a field goal attempt, which they miss off the upright, only to have USC get called for an illegal leaping penalty over the center in an effort to block said kick, which gave Oregon a 1st and goal, and they subsequently scored a touchdown rather than have 0 points on the board. Then at the end of the first half, as USC desperately needed something to swing the momentum and get something going in our favor, we missed our own 27-yard field goal. I'm not going to put too much of this on the shoulders of Sayeri because the guy's been pretty much lights out all year, but it just added to the overall disaster that was the special teams. There were 5 major gaps in the first half alone, which directly accounted for 17 points, 14 in favor of Oregon and a -3 for USC. Can I blame John Baxter for this? I'm not mad. I'm just very disappointed.
Yeah, it was horrendous special teams.
The thing about Sayeri is, I think you and I both would agree that, missing a single field goal is not the end of the world for a kicker.
Mm-hmm.
But it is particularly frustrating that his timing was like,
right.
I would have rather him missed a field goal in any of the previous 3 games.
Miss another one at Purdue.
Yeah. Than for his first miss in a while to come in this particular game. Although, again, like realistically, I think that a singular field goal was not going to be the difference in this game, considering USC needed touchdowns. But it was particularly demoralizing, I think, to go out of the first half like that.
Yes, and like this is one of the things where you talked about, like, does Oregon score more in the second half if they need to? I think you can argue the case, yes. But like I also think that there is a completely different mindset in this game if SC doesn't have the Desmond Stevens penalty, and then even if they hit the field goal there and it's 21-17 going to halftime, like, you feel better if you're SC and you feel worse if you're Oregon, and like maybe that affects halftime adjustments or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I'm not going to say SC wins the game because of that, because that's ridiculous. Yeah. But like any little thing you needed to go your way, you needed to mitigate any of those, and having them stack on top of each other really made it worse. And it was the worst special teams performance, I would say, since the Texas game in 2018.
Yeah, there were just you can survive a leaping penalty in a lot of previous games. Yeah. You can survive a missed field goal in a lot of previous games. You can survive giving up a punt return touchdown in a lot of previous games. You can't have all of them at the same time.
In the same half.
Yeah.
All right, email from Rich in San Diego. Good evening, Alicia and Michael. I have to say, I've enjoyed listening to your pod after games this year. In this past year, both of you are great, and I love the dog talk and even the barking too. There's no more barking. This is a barking-free pod. Okay,
we've
solved
it. That
potentially. Okay, enough of that. I'm starting with Alicia on the state of the program, and here's why. I'm not a Riley hater. I'm just not a Riley believer. To all those fans that come and say, if you're not with us when we lose, don't be with us when we win, or something like that, please shut up. We're allowed to have our opinions, whether positive or not. One, is the offense really that good? Yes, the players have the stats, but it feels like they underperform against good teams. If you take away the Missouri State and Georgia Southern game, all but 2 winless teams in conference play, Michigan State and Purdue, they average 28 points per game. That doesn't look good. So while people claim that Riley is a guru, maybe he's just a good offensive coordinator. Yes, I said it. Number 2, seems like he looks more at his play sheet than the defense when the defense is on the field. He looks like an OC rather than a head coach. I was waiting for the Cardinals-Jaguars. I was watching the Cardinals-Jags game the other day, and Liam Cohen did the same thing that reminded me of Riley. Instead of going for 3 and making a 6-point lead in the fourth, he went for it and didn't get it, and then the Cardinals tied it up at the end of the game. You can see him looking at his play sheet thereafter, annoyed that he didn't make the conversion on 4th down, kind of disregard where his team's defense was after that. Number 3, to the narrative that you hire Lincoln Riley for his offense, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You hire a coach to win games. If you get a Heisman-winning quarterback, that's the cherry on top, but you're hired to win games. You don't just hire the chef because he wants to make good pasta. You hire the chef because his entire menu is great. When Riley's menu been great, if your defense continues to make the same mistakes and special teams continue to make mistakes, that's like having hair in your pasta from time to time. That might be a stretch, but you get my point, Alicia. Number 4, to another narrative that we don't have the players. We do have the players. There is enough talented players and smart enough to be at least above average. They're just not positioned to be in the correct spot every time. Who is responsible for that? Where's the accountability? How many games do you need to ensure the players are in the correct position? To be fair, I see 3 great players from the defense, 3 great plays from the defense against Oregon. One from Devin Tompkins, where We got off the block and made a tackle on the running back. The other from Abasiri kind of doing the same thing, stopping the running back, and then Urlacher with the pretty athletic interception. Lastly, I'm getting tired of Riley's post-game and general interviews and finding myself to avoid them like Helton's interviews toward the end. He has taglines almost every year. It's the longer we go, the stronger we get. This year, it's burn all the boats, or it's the untrained eye when Grinch was the DC, or we're 3 plays away last year. We're so close this year. Here's the number one fact. USC will go as far as their defense will take them, not the offense. I think Lynn is leaving on his own accord next year, and we're looking at a new DC for next year. So what are they going to reset the clock again and say that that's year one again? P.S. If you read this entire email during your pod, I appreciate it. If you don't know hard feelings, I know it's pretty long. Rich and SD, we did it. We made it through.
We made it through. Thank you for emailing in, Rich. I thought this was a really strong email, hitting a lot of different points, and I don't really have disagreements. I think you've hit a lot of things on the head for me. I think the only area where I will say is that you definitely do hire a coach to win games. Mm-hmm. Lincoln Riley's problem is that he has an offense that can win games, and he doesn't seem to know how to evaluate or figure out a defense that knows how to win games. The thing about like the offense not being good against good defenses, I wish I had some stats to back this up, but I would bank on this being the case, that USC's offensive efficiency reductions or success rate reduction or whatever it is against top defenses is probably close to what the average of most good offenses playing good defenses. I think that you would probably expect the scoring to go down the way that it does when you're playing a really good defense. Most good teams deal with that by having a good defense themselves.
Yeah, like that's the name of the game. That's the sport. Like yes, obviously you want to be able to score 50 points against literally everybody, and Oregon didn't have wasn't slowed down like SC was slowed down, all that kind of stuff. Absolutely. I wish I could find better way to do these numbers, but like on CFB stats, they have against ranked opponents, SC is averaging 6 yards per play. That's 15th in the country. Against unranked opponents, SC is number 2 at 7.71. Obviously, that's a difference, but I would assume that if you took the average delta between all those things, SC's delta is rather normal. I would assume there. Also, the other thing is when you look at things like FEI is opponent adjusted. Like, there's a reason that we like to look at opponent adjusted statistics because it takes all of that into account. Also, Oregon was the best passing defense in the country, and SC just threw for 330 yards against them, and they had to resort to several pass interference calls. A lot of them, what do you call it? Professional fouls.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yes, SC didn't score enough, but also they left a lot of points on the field, and that's obviously something that you need to get better on. But they're just.
For the record, FEI offense, USC is still in the top 5. They're number 4. And that's with the opponent adjusted numbers.
It's opponent adjusted. So it takes into account what else you did. But all right. Voicemail from Dan.
Hey Michael, hey Alicia, it's Dan from Valley Village. I'm about to get on the 405 and sit traffic for bumper to bumper on Monday morning. So I thought while I was listening to the CarCast, I thought I'd take issue with one thing that you said, Alicia, about next year's defense. Look, I get your opinion about the defense. I think we are wanting on that side. But one thing you did say that is I take issue with is the fact that you said if USC next year replicates what they do in the second half for all 4 quarters, they would be better as a team. I think that is not an if they could do that. It's they must do that. If USC's defense had showed up in Oregon in the first half, you don't spot them all those points. You put up a better fight in Notre Dame if you play defense all 4 quarters. It's not if they do that. That is the definition of becoming an elite team. You don't play 2 quarters. And I know Pete Carroll did that. I was there. I saw those things. Lincoln Riley is not Pete Carroll. That's okay. But the fact is like, if they keep continuing playing second half defense, you're gonna keep losing consistently like this. You are also, my second point, I'm dragging on, but my second point is also, Elisa, you tend to look at the team, I think, in a little bit more of a 5-year plan than a year-by-year plan, and I get it. This team should be light years ahead, but it's not. And I think you can't eat the entire pizza at once. You have to take one slice at a time. And a successful year looks like this. I think year over year, yeah, it was dumpy, crappy years the past few years, but like, it's still progress. And you wouldn't yell at a child for drawing a crappy picture one year and then doing better the next year. You'd be like, oh, that's great. But if you looked at a child one year and then be like, oh, you should be doing better, and they're like, oh, Daddy, but I'm only 6, and you're like, no, you should be drawing like you're a 10-year-old, that would be insane. So what I'm saying is take a step back and look at it and enjoy the progress. I love you both.
Thanks for the call, Dan. As always, we have another call from Dan that I'm excited to get to at the end. I thoroughly agree that like what they do in the second half shouldn't be a want. That should be what you are, right? Like if SC's defense was what they are in the second half, and then you had the ability to go up a gear from that would be really like that's how you get to being a top 20 defense, right? Like we talked about it last week about like how the sort of the first half splits in the last 5 games or whatever, just for the entire season. In the first half, rush defense, yards per carry, SC is 116th, averaging 4.93 yards per carry. In the second half, it's down to 3.91, which is 55th. It's ahead of Ole Miss. So like 55th isn't, obviously it's not top 10 or anything, but like 55th is not a liability like the first half is, right? Defensively, you look at the first half in passer rating, because that's sort of the only thing that in CFB stats that you can sort of factor in everything at once. Passer rating, defensively in the first half, 147.3. That's 109th in the country. That's below Missouri State. That's below Louisiana Monroe and San Jose State. In the second half, SC in passer rating is at 127.4. That's right behind ASU. It's right behind USF. It's a few spots behind Texas A&M. It's you're 60th in the country, but like you're right behind Texas A&M. So like that's manageable. If in terms of the counting stats and whatnot. So like yeah, like if that is your baseline and you go up from there, you have a good second half, and then you're even better from there. Like that's where you should be 100%, especially because SC's second half defense, we've seen it's like 6 games now. 6 games in a row, even against Oregon and even against Notre Dame, the 2 games that they lost, they were better defensively in the second half. So like, it is a thing. Like it's no longer the small sample size anymore. Like their second half defense just is better. Why can't you just be that way the entire way through?
Yeah, I think it's very frustrating that they can't be that way the entire way through, and there has to be an explanation. That explanation to me being that they're good at adjusting and bad at game planning. And the question I have is, over the offseason, can they get good at game planning? Like, what is going on there that is causing them to get outwitted by offensive coordinators in the first half the way that they have been? Mm-hmm. And why does it take till halftime for them to like figure something out? I think the other thing that we have to acknowledge about this defense is, if we're going to talk about the defense getting better next year based on, well, just replicate what you're doing in the second half, what if instead they start replicating what they do in the first half? Because like I was looking at FEI defense ranks, and again, these are opponent adjusted, so I don't think that this is dependent on like whatever schedule that USC was playing this year versus last year as far as the level of offenses that they've been playing. But this year USC ranks 51st. Last year they ranked 33rd. Now ranks don't necessarily mean everything because it's a reflection of other teams and where they've improved or gone down. So you look at the raw numbers, and last year USC was 0.32 in defensive FEI. This year they are 0.19 in defensive FEI. So that tells me that even though we have this perception that USC's defense has gotten better, it is only that they have gotten better in the second half, and that the first half numbers are so horrific that they're taking that number down that far. So I think you have to acknowledge both sides of the coin here, is that which is the true USC defense? Is it the first half or the second half? It's probably somewhere in between. But my point being is that, like, we can't also ignore the possibility that the first half defense shows up just as often next year as the second half defense does. My main concern here, and something that like Iliam points out, that this isn't a video game where you level up. Like that's one of the most frustrating things about following actual football, is that, you know, you don't get to the off-season training schedule of your dynasty and see everybody get the plus sign next to their name. That's just not how it works. Just because you were a certain level this year doesn't mean you'll be better next year. You could even be worse. My concern here is that if I am trusting the defensive FEI numbers, it is problematic that USC has gone from 0.32 down to 0.19 in year 2 when you are supposed to get better. Now, some of that is losing the DBs that they lost. Some of that is the linebacker situation and all of that kind of stuff. But it's still, you know, it still is what it is. And now people in the chat are talking about Rob Ryan. Here's my thing about Rob Ryan, though. When was the last time that USC had good linebacker play? Because to my eye, it was Cam Smith in 2015.
I think there have been good linebackers. There haven't been good linebacker cores. Yes,
which is, again, like, is this a Rob Ryan problem coming in his first year with this group? Or, like, you know, is Rob... I couldn't even tell you if Rob Ryan's an improvement, because USC hasn't had good linebacker play ever in a while.
Is the best linebacker core that SC has had of late, is it last year? With EMA and Cobb?
Yeah.
Because Cobb last year was much better than the year before, right?
Yes.
And EMA was solid.
Certainly better at middle linebacker than
they weren't great, but like collectively they weren't liabilities, right? They weren't liabilities like the year before, and not like
this year.
Not like this year, yeah. I tend to think that the improved play in the second half defensively is a big testament to the viability of Danton Lynn's future. The problem in the first half is an issue. I think it would feel much better. I would feel much better about Danton Lynn as a defensive coordinator if the second half stayed the same and the first half issues had slowly improved to the mean of the second half. You know what I mean? Like, in other words, like, from the Illinois game to now, like, it slowly gets closer to what the average of the second half is. I think it'd be a lot easier to see stuff there. I do feel bad for Danton Lynn with the DBs and not having the DBs that you maybe planned, both in part from the injuries and in part from some of the guys you got in the transfer portal just didn't pan out. And how much of that is you got the wrong dudes? How much of that is you didn't coach them up right? Like, I don't know. It's always extremely hard to decipher that in a sport that is inherently a small sample size of everything. But, like, yeah, the defense was better last year. The defense now is still 2 steps ahead of where it was 2 years ago.
The second half defense is the second half defense is better than what USC had on the field last year to me. But USC's last year's defense across 4 quarters was better than what USC is getting across 4 quarters this year.
I think that
because the second half defense is honestly the best defense we've seen at USC in a long time. Inexplicably.
Yeah, and statistically, it's sort of like there's a lot of things that suggest that too statistically. Yeah. All right, let's go to voicemail we got from the 818.
I guess I'm doing a rant here. So my take is this: as a long-time USC fan, 40 years, if Lincoln Riley were the CEO of a company and these were his numbers, after 4 years at the job, stockholders would definitely have him fired. No question about it. He's not a CEO type. He may know a few things about offensive schemes or whatever. He may be a good guy for HR or something. CEO? No. A CEO is Dan Lanning, is Kenny Dillingham, is Jed Fish, is any number of Signetti, or Signetti, whatever. Even Wilcox. I mean, he's just not a CEO type of guy. Okay? And we can wait 4 years, we can wait 9 years, we can wait 15 years, and he's still going to not be the guy. He doesn't have that material. Anyways, that's my take. You guys keep doing your thing. I like the show. Bye.
Thanks. We appreciate it. Tell us your name next time so that we don't just have to say that you're from the 818. But no, I think that the CEO criticisms of Lincoln Riley is extremely valid, especially when you add into the recruiting struggles early on and all the negative feedback from there that has been, warranted, the not recruiting modern day thing, all of that stuff. 1,000% I agree. I don't know that the CEO analogy to a Fortune 500 company kind of thing works, because this is it's not a 1-for-1. Like, part of the reason that you can't make the move like you would in the real world in that sense is that there's a finite number of good coaches in college football. There's only so many of those. You have to go out and actually find somebody who's better. There's way more candidates to have a viable CEO than there in a business than there is a head coach in college football. On top of this, the buyouts are like a completely different factor too. Like, I understand. I thoroughly get the point. I get the logic there. I just don't think it's a 1-for-1 comparison. Yeah,
I don't. There just aren't that many 1-for-1 comparisons if you're just talking real. I think I agree with the caller in the 818. 818 Pride. In that, if Riley had been hired with a typical college football sort of starting salary and years on a contract, the conversations that we had last year at 6-6 would have been very different. Now, I think that it is more likely than not that the closeness of the games in that 6-6 would have saved Riley, even if he was on a more modest contract.
Or does it do the opposite?
Well, again, this gets back to the Clay Helton of it all. Like, in 2018, USC could have fired Clay Helton, but they had just given him an extension, and the buyout was too big at that point. So we never really got like a true sense of like, what is the point at which you give up on a coach? And the thing with Lincoln Riley last year is like, they could have given up on it, especially because Jen Cohen comes in. He's not her guy. If she can fire him without financial implications, maybe she just does. And then she goes out and gets Chad Bowden as a GM, and then the two of them make a hire together. I don't know how the timeline would have worked there, but either way, it certainly would have been more possible. At the same time, it's possible she sits there and listens to him and listens to him say how close they were, which they were. And then he comes back this year, and then he wins 9 games, and then it's like, okay, so you're not going to fire him then. The problem being is that in year 4 right now, you have to start thinking about extension because of the contract situation. So do you extend him if he's on a more reasonable contract, or do you just cut bait? And there's still a chance that USC would have had the chance to cut bait. There would have been 2 opportunities for USC to cut bait, where right now they could not cut bait last year. They cannot cut bait this year, and I will continue to say this. I do not think they will be able to cut bait next year either.
Yeah.
So
college football doesn't make business sense.
No, and yes, that's
you know what I
a really good point. Like college football programs and college football as a whole is not run like a Fortune 500 company, except for golden parachutes being a common thing across the board. But you know,
it doesn't work the same way. But yeah, I think that the general criticism about Lincoln Riley not being a holistic overall overseer of everything, the CEO type of coach, is valid, and those are the hardest guys to find. Those are absolutely the hardest guys to find, especially because I think those guys are hard to see as up and comers, right? Like, in the sense of like, if you are a good CEO type head coach, but maybe you don't get a lot of wins because you don't have the talent beneath you, you don't have like enough schematics behind you at the lower level, whatever it is, it's harder for you to be seen. Whereas if you are an elite X's and O's coach, which we all think that Lincoln Riley is,
on offense.
Yeah, on offense. Like it makes it so much easier to stand out. It's a lot easier to stand out when you have direct a direct CV that says, hey, we were 3rd in offense in the country. You know what I mean? Versus I'm a really good CEO type head coach. I manage everything really well. Unfortunately, we're 7-5, but like I manage everything, and I would translate really good if I had everything, if I had all the resources. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to find that guy in a world like college football.
Yeah.
Okay. Kevin.
Yes, my name is Kevin, and I live in Henderson, Nevada. I'm a longtime USC supporter, and I missed your podcast. I think it came on yesterday or this morning, whatever. But man, the problem is, SC football. The whole school is soft. Lincoln Riley, he was never the guy. Clay Helton, of course, was never the guy. But you look at the worst. Yeah, at least Clay Helton went to the Rose Bowl and won the Rose Bowl, beat a decent Penn State game. But this Lincoln Riley, he hasn't done. He's all talk, no action. Going 9-3 don't get you a championship, man. Anyway, you guys do a good job. Keep it up, and God bless you guys. Fight on, guys.
Thanks for the call, Kevin. We appreciate you. Going 9-3 doesn't win you a championship. Absolutely, I think it's a great point. I will say I was talking to a couple friends yesterday, and I made the comparison of like trying to figure out like what is the use case if SC is 9-3, right, ends up being 9-3. I'm not going to knock on the wood because we know what that'll trigger, but like I'm knocking on wood here, right? If SC ends up 9-3, what is the team like what is the example of a program that like got from this point to winning a national championship? Is it not Michigan? Is 2025 USC not 2019 Michigan? Is that the roadmap for like how you get there?
Yeah, but 2018 Michigan was 10-3.
Sure, but like 2018, 2019, but that's what I'm saying. Like you're in the 9-win purgatory. You're on the outside looking in. You can't win the big games. You're talented. You're all these things. You've got message boards that want to fire your coach and everything. And what I'm saying is, if it ends up panning out for Lincoln Riley, it would end up looking like Michigan, right? Like that would be the best case scenario.
If we equate 2020, where they went 2-4, with last year at the 7-6,
mm-hmm.
and then
I think 2020 doesn't count. Like it.
Well, and then
it's just an outlier.
And
like Michigan was bad, Penn State was bad. Like it was sort of an outlier year.
Well, okay, let's call 19 and 20 as a combo, sort of as reflections of each other, because 2019 is 9-4, 2020 is 2-4. So the collective record across those two seasons, albeit one of them being completely off the rails, was sort of closer to 500 than anybody in Michigan would have wanted. That's when when they do the instead of firing him, they change the contract. So
I'm just saying, like if I think that's the best example of if staying pat will pan out. I think that's the best example of how it could happen. And part of the reason that ends up paying off for them is that they start winning the big games, right? Like they start beating Penn State reliably. They start beating Ohio State every year. And because they can beat Ohio State, they can also beat Michael Penix in a playoff game, in part because they know what the plays are coming. You know what I mean?
Here's another example.
The other
real,
one I
quickly
was
is Notre Dame 2016. If 4-8 is 7-6 for USC, the following year Notre Dame 2017 improves to 10-3, which is
But that was a full coordinator change. I don't think that's quite the same thing.
Well, I don't know.
But also they didn't win a national championship. Like, because Danny in the chat said wrecked at Georgia, but like Georgia didn't win a national championship and they got fed up and ultimately sent him on his merry way, right? Like,
which is kind of my problem with all of this.
Right. I guess what I'm saying is, like, I think the best argument for saying that 9-3 isn't good enough and Lincoln Riley isn't the guy is that there's not a lot of examples of a team in this position to go on and win national championships. It's like Dabo and Harbaugh. I'm not going to throw Orgeron in there because Orgeron is a one-season wonder based on talent. Like Orgeron, Chizik, Gus Malzahn getting to a national championship game. Like all those things are very Sonny Dykes getting the national championship game with TCU. Like those are lightning in a bottle seasons that don't correspond to everything else. So, yeah. All right, let's go to email from Jonathan. He's back again. It says, back again. That game against Oregon sucked. We had multiple changes and failed to execute and put some real pressure on Oregon. Back to the conversation about LR. The whole year 4 versus essentially starting a new rebuild on the fly, as is the case when he fired the old defensive staff and brought in Chad Bowden. I was listening to Josh Payton yesterday, and he made some very valid points from both perspectives. I attached the link here. Minute 7:30 onward, let me know your thoughts. Things are looking up. We are this close. Alicia, you had time to take in the Josh Pate stuff. What say you?
Yeah, so, I mean, Pate's general point was, for anyone who hasn't listened, that Lincoln Riley tried to course correct after last season, and they philosophically were taking things down to the studs at USC, and that even if he nails the rebuild, that the rebuild is going to be, you have to expect it to be 2 or 3 years, and they're better than this year than they were last year, and you have to sort of accept that there is no quick fix or snap of the finger way to get back on top. It's going to take 2 to 3 years of a rebuild, and they've got the highly ranked recruiting class. And, as the younger guys come through, they're going to be able to, he called it like scrape away the cosmetic leadership that sometimes builds on a team where you have older guys who are leaders, team leaders, simply because no one else was capable of doing it. And that basically Josh Pate is not going to give up on Lincoln Riley. Still think it can work at USC. I get everything he's saying, and I think they're reasonable points. My point, not to hammer home again, is simply that if a rebuild from year 4 is going to take 2 or 3 years, then I don't think it's worth rebuilding with that coach. Like, I don't think it's worth hiring the same contractor to fix the mistakes that contractor made when taking over a project. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's a good analogy. I think it's a good analogy for how things translate here. Email from Victor in Oceanside. Hey, guys, before I get to my question, I need to defend Alicia. As SC fans, we need to maintain high standards the same ways other big schools do, and I think that is what Alicia is doing. LSU and Penn State both fired coaches that were arguably well above average, yet we are content with what we have. We are well aware until we lost to Oregon, LOL. Regardless, the point remains. I would definitely encourage Alicia to take a laugh now, cry later approach when we get solid wins like we did against Iowa. Since we're clearly in the crying phase now, I would totally agree with her still. Top schools like Ohio State are never content with just being average. I also agree with Michael, though, that we are making steady progress, and even if the timelines aren't where they should be, it still needs to be acknowledged and celebrated. Anyways, this point is so a week ago, but Alicia has been getting attacked from all sides lately, so I felt like I had to step in. I'll move on to my question now. Why can't Riley replicate the success he had at OU here at SC? I know they never actually won a playoff game, but to this point, we'd sure be happy to just make the college football playoff in any capacity. Hopefully this time next year, the question will be irrelevant after we make the playoff, but for now, it remains. Hold on. Where is it?
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me?
There you go. I feel like I haven't been pressing that as much as I should be. Anyways, love the podcast, guys. You guys give us a good break from the craziness of the world just to talk football. I'm going to miss it when it's over. Baseball season is fun, but nothing beats college football. God bless you guys. Fight on and beat the Bruins. Much love, Victor from Oceanside. Victor, we pod in the off season too. You can join us in the off season, but we appreciate you. Appreciate all the kind words and the sanity and all that kind of stuff. I'm glad Victor asked this question because I have been having this thought lately about the idea of Oklahoma making the playoff, USC not making the playoff. We talked about us being in a group chat and you having this argument about SC and Oregon and where they stand comparatively and all this stuff. And I was looking up stuff and like it was shocking to me that Oregon has only made 2 playoff appearances. That seems wild to me, given how much talent they have, how many Rose Bowls they've been to, conference titles, all that kind of stuff.
Well, you have to remember that Washington had a run there and Stanford had a run there.
You also have to remember that where we are in college football is not where we were in college football.
Yeah, it was only 4.
There were 4 teams, and now there's 12, and like. This is one of the things that we had talked about before at the time, that like when you open up the playoff, the getting to the playoff lessons, its importance in the sense of like making a 14 playoff is an accomplishment. Making a 12-team playoff is an accomplishment, but they're not the same accomplishment, right? Just in terms of making it. Obviously, if you're the number 12 seed and you win the national championship, who the hell cares? You're the best. Have the parade, put the banner up, everything, right? Like it counts all the same. But you know what I mean, right? Like, because the frustrating thing about SC lately, and they haven't made this better on themselves because you shouldn't have to rely on qualifiers like this, but like SC 3 years ago with Caleb Williams, they make the playoff in a 12-team playoff. They make the playoff in a 12-team playoff when they go to the Rose Bowl with Sam Darnold. They make the playoff in the 12-team playoff the following year in 2017. And so, like, not to say that like we need to have that perspective and like retroactively retcon those teams as playoff teams. That's not what I'm saying. But like the idea that like SC just needs to make the playoff, I think is valid. But also we need to understand that like making the playoff before still meant more. So like when we sit here and we say that like, oh, Lincoln Riley's never won anything or whatever, he made the playoff 3 times in a row when it was 4 teams. And I understand that, oh, it's just the Big 12. Like, oh, he's playing, Kansas every year or whatever. It was still 4 teams. It was still 4 teams, and we were in a situation where, like, you could have one little thing happen to you for the season. You just not make it because it's hard to get in, right? So, like, he had success. How do you replicate that success?
Can I
I don't know.
Can I cut in here, though? Yeah. Because the question was, like, why can't he replicate the success that he had at Oklahoma at USC?
Yeah.
I think the easy answer is that he took over at Oklahoma an already established program.
Yes.
With a winning culture that, he just basically kept driving the car straight where somebody had kept it straight anyways. Yes. And he comes to USC where the culture is all over the place and the infrastructure is weird, and he's got to basically build things back up, and that takes time. But I will also say that we have to remember too that Lincoln Riley was winning everything he was winning in the Big 12, a conference that was less competitive generally than the SEC or the Big 10. And I would even say there was less parity in the Big 12 than even in the Pac-12.
Because OU won it every year.
Because OU or Texas won. And even then, Texas, during his time at Oklahoma, Texas was generally not, Texas was down for the most part. So it was really just Oklahoma rolling through everybody. Not to take anything away from what Oklahoma won there, but I think the path to success, the path to getting in range of the playoff was simply easier there than it has been at USC, certainly since the Big Ten move, but even before that, because Oklahoma didn't really have to deal with the fact that Oregon existed in their conference.
Oregon's a bit bigger foe on a year in a year out basis,
and even Utah, like
Texas was. Yeah.
I don't think that Texas had an Oregon or a Utah. I think Oklahoma State was probably the closest thing to a Utah in any given season. So that also accounts for some of it.
Baylor from time to time.
Yeah.
TCU. Yeah. No, I think that's fair, especially like when you compare it now. I think that's definitely the case. Like
Gilliam says, if USC was still in the Pac-12, we might be in it this year. And that's the ironic thing about USC moving to the Big Ten in pursuit of like playoff money and all that kind of stuff. Like if you had stayed in the Pac-12 and they expanded to 12, your opportunity to get into the playoff would be so much better than it is currently.
Let's flush that out. I think there's a very real chance that you would have gone 10-2, losing to Oregon and Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, this is a odd year, so it means Utah would have been at home. So I guess you would like your chances to beat Utah in that sense, but still, it's not like SC was beating Utah on a yearly basis the last 5 years in the Pac-12 anyways. Like I think that sounds right in the sense of like there's fewer games in the Pac-12 that you would have to play if you were elite teams.
Travel, your road trips are very different.
But also, I think the result might have ended up still being the same.
I mean, sure, maybe, yeah, but
because they still lose to Notre Dame, they still lose at Oregon. And there's a very realistic chance that they still would have lost to Utah, because Utah and Illinois are not dissimilar completely. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like they're in the same realm of like difficult team to play and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah. But traveling to Champaign is different than
All right, we got an email from Bennett. You want to take it away?
Yeah, Bennett says, I've never witnessed a Trojan team with so many egregious and undisciplined performances before. Jacoby Lane's jaunt into the Oregon sidelines was a bad look. Tanokind spinning the ball after a first down, bad look. Desmond Stevens with the dumbest play you'll ever see, bad look. And at any point, does the camera show Riley have a word with any of them? No. Oregon's guy gets a flag, and immediately Lanning is in his face. I remember Reggie somersaulting into the end zone against the Bruins, and Pete was chewing him out seconds later. Discipline comes from leadership, and Riley is not that. Yeah, the players made the errors, but they clearly aren't afraid of any discipline from the coaching staff. I don't know. I'm 4 bourbons in right now. Maybe I'm jaded at this point. Fight on. Beat the Bruins. Bennett, I feel you being 4 bourbons in, 100%. Yeah, and I think that the Oregon game was so frustrating because as much as USC, as we talked about earlier in this episode, the success rate and all of the other statistics, as much as USC trailed Oregon in those things, a clean game, just a clean game, keep everything else the same, and just a clean game from the players in terms of penalties and special teams absolutely gives USC a chance in that game, because Oregon was not having a clean game. Oregon was sloppy. Oregon was having a ton of penalties and all of that. And I'm not one to talk about penalties specifically as the kind of thing that good teams don't have. Again, too many Pete Carroll teams had dumb penalties, even if Pete was in their face, a second later. So there are different kinds of styles of coaching, and I think they can all be effective. But I also think that in this particular case, USC, this happens to USC too often to not be an issue with perhaps the sort of internal culture of accountability that needs to be there if you make those dumb mistakes. I also think you can get away with dumb mistakes a lot better if your team is just better. So, that's the difference for me with Pete Carroll and Lincoln Riley right now.
Yeah, I also think that, yelling at the refs, I think, is how you view that is sort of a Rorschach test. Did I say that right?
Rorschach test, yeah.
Sure. For how you feel about things at the moment, right? When you're frustrated that he's not yelling at the refs for penalties and stuff, it comes off as spineless.
Yeah.
But also you could see him yell at the refs and think, why is he whining at the refs? Why is he?
There's an art to it.
He's just bitching about the refs, but not taking the time to coach up the defense or whatever. It all comes down to just win games. If you win games, you will be happier. And then I know that this is frustrating, but it's the thing about people smiling on the sidelines and all that stuff. The optics of those things are never good if you're just not winning. If you're winning, nobody cares about those things. If you're losing, they all look bad.
Yeah, I think that is ultimately.
Yeah, because if you're winning and someone's laughing on the sideline,
no one cares.
Even during a loss, it's damn, or even when you're losing and someone's laughing on the sideline, they're so calm.
Yeah.
Look how calm they are.
Yeah.
They're so loose. They're not worried. Whatever.
Yeah.
You can contort yourself into sort of any of those things, based on winning or whatever. But
and if you go to the sideline angry and throw your helmet or whatever, and you lose, it looks like you're throwing a tantrum, and you win, it looks like your passion sort of showed.
Yeah.
You got a response from your team.
Yeah, 100%. Email from Tony. Tony says,
I will on this subject though.
Yeah.
Trojan Dale says, I have objective evidence of Riley's spinelessness and not holding players accountable. Explain to me how Desmond Stevens played over and over again while playing like shit. I will say that one thing that I do wish that USC would do more is when a player has a dumb moment, take them out for a drive. Even if it hurts you, you take them out for a drive. Desmond Stevens should not have been on the field after that brainless moment, in my opinion.
Did you watch all the Riley press conference? Because all I saw was him.
Well, I saw him talk about
that
Desmond Stevens lost his mind and did something that they don't coach.
He did say that?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was going to say, is there a world in which they weren't even mad at the penalty? Like, is there a world in which...
Well...
Because this is the thing that has popped up on Discord, and there was a question about it on Discord, and I think that we can get to that, where from Iliam about like what is the penalty, right? Like explain the penalty, right? And like you look at all it's so difficult. Like you look at how the penalty is written, and like you can jump over a gap, but you can't jump over the frame of a body. But I would say, what is the frame of the body? Is the frame of the body the shoulders? Is it the full bounding box of the person? Like, does their feet count as where their feet are planted? Is that the frame? Like, all of it seems like a nightmare to enforce from the refereeing perspective to me, which is all the more reason not to do it. But I guess what I'm saying is I was thinking that there could have been a world in which they were mad that it was called rather than it happened. Does that make sense? Yeah. But if that's not the case, then that's not the case. But
no,
I was thinking
he very specifically said he did something that they do not teach.
Yeah.
Which, the whole question of, Terry McAuley saying it wasn't a penalty and all this kind of stuff, like, that is sort of aside the point because of what Lincoln Riley said about it. That was not something that they teach them to do.
Yeah. You won't get burned when you touch the stove really quickly in the right spot. But you also risk getting burned by touching you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where like, I just wouldn't jump. I wouldn't jump on those things. It's good to hear that that's something that they're not coaching these guys. At the same time, they did get called for it against Illinois. Although that was a completely different situation.
To me, the Illinois thing is a completely different. Like that's one that you as a coach get mad at because
that one was a ridiculous call. He wasn't jumping over the guy.
No, he literally jumped and got undercut. Like it wasn't on him.
Yes,
this was Desmond Stevens being stupid. And again, like this goes back to I'm fine with you not punishing the player who very clearly just gets screwed by a bad call. Mm-hmm. But if you allow a player to make that level of mistake, and have no consequences for him in the immediate aftermath, I don't know. I think that there is a time and place for you to say, you did something harmful to your team. Now we will harm the team further by taking you out of the game. And you have to sit there and watch. And I would have done it for Jacoby Lane too.
Yeah, I think you can make a really easy argument that Jacoby Lane's was even more egregious.
Yeah.
Because like
more stupid.
There's
what
nothing
was he trying
to even
accomplish?
There's nothing to even gain there.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do think it's difficult. Yes, like accountability matters, all that kind of stuff matters. At the same time, like you can't cut off your eye to spite your chin, whatever the saying is.
You don't cut off your nose to spite your face.
Sure, that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's really difficult. It's really difficult. At the same time, I don't know that Desmond Stevens was playing well enough not to get benched.
Yeah.
For a drive. Yeah. I think you end up giving Jacoby Lane more leeway because he's Jacoby Lane and you know how vital he is to your offense.
Yeah. And
even if that's unfair.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. All right. We got a series of emails from James. Hey, Alicia, we'll start with the 4-year statement. How many of Helton leftovers have gotten to the NFL? So yes, SC was a dumpster fire outside of the offensive line. Year 1, 2022, SC did not have much of an NIL program. Lincoln Riley brought in a lot of players with a single year left. Recruiting class was small, 9 players, only 3 really ever played college football. Why 11-3? Because Caleb Williams is very experienced and a good offensive line. 4 got a cup of coffee in the NFL. Horrific defense. Year 2, 2023, 2 returning offensive line, okay, but Caleb was the key. Grinch defense, not designed for big time power football. Yes, a Riley mistake, though Grinch had coached top 25 defense before. Year 3, 2024, new defensive coordinator Dan Lynn, 10 points per game improvement in terms of scoring defense. Offensive line developed with Page and Pregnon, but not with the NIL transfers. Learned how to lose small. Year 4, 2025, Hansen, new offensive line coach, big improvement. Took a 3-star to the NFL, now an experienced O-line. A Riley quarterback, top 5 offense. Defensive line is better but young, learning how to win small and come back. Number 1 class in 2026. So the 4th year is more like 3 with the Grinch mistake. Great hires: Carroll, Hansen, Lynn, Ryan, Henderson, Belk, Reed, Savage are plus. So the lesson to learn about the offensive line and defensive line, which takes time to develop. So Riley is building a program. Just look at the youth in the offensive line. Everyone should return. 4 interior defensive linemen are redshirt freshmen and freshmen. 4 linebackers are similar, and defensive backs are building. La Dolce Vita, James.
Yeah, I get.
Sorry, there were 2 more.
Well,
USC
he emailed a few more times
Yeah.
with just some little add-ons.
Yeah.
He points out that USC Oregon features 12 players in the NFL draft prospect ratings. 9 were for Oregon, so not even talent, like the talent advantage.
Yeah.
And then he points out that USC's team composite is 17th, just about where they will finish. Notice how Michigan ranked higher. Yeah, all of those things, I get where you're coming from. I guess what I would say is that if you are learning to win small in your 3rd year and blaming it on a new DC because you screwed up your first DC hire, then that's still on you. And if you are in year 3 and your offensive line development is coming along, but you haven't stacked your offensive line well enough that you come into year 4 with an extremely thin line still, then that is, again, on you for the way that you have done things. And, I just think that there are excuses in every single year, and some of them are more valid than others. But, I'll listen to excuses for a year. I'll listen to them for 2, maybe even 3, depending on, what they actually are. But at a certain point, you are what your excuses say you are,
Right.
And traditionally, we don't make this shit up. Traditionally, the way that you judge a head coach is 1 year, you don't judge it. Year 2, you don't judge it. Year 3 is when the results come. Year 3 is when you have instilled your culture in a team. Year 3 is when your recruiting class, your first recruiting class, is showing you where they're sort of where you're at. People are supposed to be coming into their own. You're supposed to have your veteran players who have been in your culture for 3 years now are coming in and taking over, and they show you the results of what your program is. And so, in that sense, my problem with saying that, USC changed DCs, therefore year 3 is a reset. No, because the culture of your team didn't change, and the makeup of your defense didn't change, even if they've got a new defensive coordinator. So if your culture was good the year before, then it would show up in year 3, even if you made a coaching change.
Yeah.
So it just, I think I find it difficult to treat an entire season as a lose small season. In 2024,
they shouldn't have had to learn that lesson. That was a lesson that makes a lot of sense in year 1.
That was a lesson for week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. For week 6, when USC lost small to Penn State. That's a top 5 team. USC loses small
Even the
to
Michigan
Penn State.
Game, yeah.
After that game, I went on a rant talking about the lose big, lose small, win big thing. And my whole point from that season is, yes, USC is 3-3, but we have seen progress from them. They challenged Michigan. They lost close to Minnesota. Now they challenged another top-ranked team in Penn State. You have shown you can lose small. Now USC gets to take the next step and finish out this season strong against opponents that should be manageable. And the first thing USC did after I went on that rant was lose to Maryland, a bad team, a bad Maryland. And then they go on to lose to a mediocre Washington team, and they finish out the season narrowly beating a mediocre Nebraska team, and even more barely beating a mediocre UCLA team. And so, the time for saying you move through that progression was in October of last year. You didn't do it though. So now you've turned an entire season into learning how to lose small. Like, you shouldn't need 5 games to learn how to lose small. Like, you already did it earlier in the season.
I think it's okay to take a year to learn to lose small, but not in the situation the SC was in. They shouldn't have had to learn that.
Especially not against Maryland and Washington.
Yeah. Exactly. Like, to your point, like, if you start the season 3-3 and you had some hard fought games and you're rebuilding in the sense that you've got a new quarterback and everything, and you've got a new defensive coordinator, the first half of the season, I think it's more than reasonable to expect a learning curve there.
Yeah.
But you got to improve on those things. And yes, the downside of the lose small thing is the credit is not equal. Like, the credit for losing small to Penn State is not the same as losing small to Maryland. Penn State went to the Final Four.
Yeah.
Maryland did not.
Maryland
didn't win 4 games.
The History Vault in the chat says USC is like 3 years behind in recruiting the trenches, though 2026 is the first year that we did that well. That's the problem. Like, again, this is an inherent issue that I have with Lincoln Riley, because as a head coach, it shouldn't be a surprise to you that you need to recruit the trenches. Like, this is basic shit. Like, you shouldn't walk into USC and look at the room that USC had at that time and say, because yes, USC had top line talent there in 2022. But like, anybody with a brain looked at that offensive line and said, oof, they're going to be in trouble in 2023 because everybody's leaving and you have no one behind them ready to go. So like, even if you didn't attack the offensive line really, really hard in 2022, like, the 2023 recruiting class should have gone overboard in recruiting the trenches, offensive and defense. And the fact that they didn't is an indictment on his understanding of what it takes to win as a head coach.
I agree. I definitely agree. At the same time, they went out and convinced Jarrett Kingston not to go to the NFL and to transfer from Washington State. They went out and they got Pregnon. They went out and they got guys going into 2023 that didn't end up being who they thought they were going to be, and they didn't develop them enough. Pregnon, absolutely yes, but like, it's hard to get those guys immediately in year one. Ilium in the chat talked about like growth isn't exactly like linear. I think that historically, I think growth had elements of being linear 1,000%, although it never was completely that, because you look at like Notre Dame, how many times they won with previous guys' players. Whittingham won with, Davey before him, with Bob Davies guys. Charlie Weiss won with Willingham's guys, right? And then they sort of fell off afterwards. But like, you look at Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll built up. He goes 6-6, and then he goes 11-2, and then goes on from there with a bunch of top 5 finishes, right? Like, that is the standard approach. But I don't think the game is the same way now, with not only just, it's not just NIL, it's the transfer portal on top of that, that I think we will need to reassess the whole like year 3 thing. And it goes in both directions. On one hand, I don't think that you need to wait for year 3 to be able to compete. The other hand is, I don't think year 3 traditionally means year 3 in the normal sense of what it did 15 years ago, because you can change over a roster really quickly. Which makes
this even worse, by the way.
It does, but it doesn't though. Like, I think of like, look at college basketball. Ever since the one and done rule came into effect in 2006 with like Greg Oden, and Kevin Durant and those guys that were the early one and doners. Look at college basketball. I pulled up John Calipari, his tenure at Kentucky. It's up and down. Like Calipari was one of the best coaches in the country when he got to Kentucky, right? And they lose 3 games, 9 games, 2 games, 12 games, 11 games, 1 game, 9 games, 6 games, 11 games, 7 games. Like, it's all up and down because there's so much roster turnover from year to year, and the more roster turnover, the harder it is to do chemistry stuff. And like, this is more of an argument for why like high school recruiting is vital, but also high school recruits are even more likely to transfer if you don't have them take in year one. Like, I don't know that the year by year thing works now the way it did 10 years ago is what I'm saying.
I agree with
just like in college basketball,
I don't think
it drastically changed.
I don't think it works now the way that it did 10 years ago. And I don't think that reflects well on USC. Because again, if you want to say that USC had nothing, had bare bones, everything in 2022 for Lincoln Riley, then how is it that in 2022, all we talked about was how he flipped the roster? He got rid of half of that roster and brought in 30 transfers, 30 plus transfers. Mm-hmm. And you're telling me that it wasn't then his roster immediately. Because It's one thing if in the past it didn't become fully your roster until 2024. Yeah. No, in 2022 and certainly 2023, that was his roster.
Yeah. Which is why I don't think we should count the years. The years don't make any sense anymore. Because, yeah, you're right. Like, how many guys were recruited by Helton in 2024? Barely any.
The only guys that were on that roster that had been recruited by Helton were ones that the coaches kept around on purpose.
Right. Which then is them signing off on those guys.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's see. What do we got left? Just the last voicemail from Dan, which is a good one. And I've got a good answer.
Hey, Rant Troy, it's Dan from Valley Village again. It's my second message, but I wanted to tell you about this dream I had. I had a dream last night that I was hanging out with Matt Liner, younger Matt Liner, like, when he was Heisman winner. And it was super cool. We were partying. We were having a good time. And I was like, oh, USC's the top of the world. And it was awesome. And then, obviously I woke up and I was like, oh, that happened. Sucks that we're not living in that time again. So, random question. What is the strangest USC dream you've ever had? If you've ever had one. Yeah, I don't know. I just thought I'd ask. Love you guys. See ya.
Alicia, you want to go first? Because I've got a long answer.
No, I know it's you. I know you're gonna have an answer. Here's the thing: is like I don't remember my dreams often enough for me to have.
You did remember the Minnesota loss dream.
Was that the time I dreamt that USC lost?
Yeah, to Minnesota.
Okay, well that wasn't a good one. That was a nightmare.
He said strangest. He didn't say good.
Then right before the Minnesota game, I dreamt that USC lost that game, and then I texted our group chat and said, "Hey guys, I dreamt that USC lost that game," and we all laughed. And then,
yeah. I had a dream when I was a kid that I was in a grocery store. I believe it was a Lucky's, to be exact. Rest in peace, Lucky's. We don't have those anymore.
Yeah, I love Lucky's.
It was a Lucky's. And I was in the back, on the back, like in the meat section. The back aisle. What do you call that? It's not an aisle, but like the back perimeter. You know what I mean? And there was a man that was walking towards me, pulled out a gun, and shot me and killed me. This man was Billy Miller, USC wide receiver.
Excuse me, what?
Yes. From that moment on, I resented Billy Miller. I did not like him.
Well, this I relate to.
He was like my least favorite USC football player.
This I relate to because I get in trouble for what Dream Alicia does, and I don't think that's particularly fair.
You're always cheating on me. It was the most irrational thing, and I'm sorry, Billy, if you're listening to this, he's probably not. I'm sorry, it was irrational, 9-year-old me, but it scarred me. It scarred me. I can still picture Billy pulling out the Glock and just taking me right there in the Lucky's.
That's wild.
Why? I have no idea. It doesn't make any sense, any logical sense. Yeah. That's my answer. Weird.
I think you won that. Is I think you win.
All right. Fight on Natty says, Alicia is the head of your household. Christmas music and decorations 2 weeks before Thanksgiving or the week of Thanksgiving or on Black Friday.
This is funny because we literally got a text, was it yesterday or the day before, of your dad putting up the Christmas tree?
Yes.
And I remember thinking like, but it's not even Thanksgiving. What are you doing?
I had that thought too, but I smiled and said everything looks great.
Yes. So I literally was thinking about this, and I came to the conclusion. I was like, when should we put up our Christmas stuff?
Black Friday.
And the answer is ideally Black Friday. Now, as someone who works in sports, as someone who was almost always working on Black Friday and the Saturday and the Sunday after that, realistically for me, it is whenever I have time in whatever days after Thanksgiving, I can, we can go and put it up. So it's not like specifically Black Friday, but it's spiritually Black Friday.
Yes,
and,
I think that's correct.
And by the way, you take down Christmas decorations no earlier than January 6th. If you are taking them down before January 6th, you are doing it wrong.
Whoa, Alicia, whoa.
The 12 days of Christmas are not the 12 days before Christmas. They are the 12 days from the 25th to the 6th.
I didn't think that you'd feel so strongly about January 6th. Jesus. Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. No, I think Christmas decorations, you should not take them down before New Year's. You can take them down after, whenever. We have been known to maybe have our Christmas decorations through Valentine's Day, but like
I am a big believer of letting your Christmas decorations stay up as long as they bring you joy, and that means often they stay up well into February.
As
I'm
type
okay
Bs,
with that.
that's like, I guess I gotta do that. But
I mean, basically, it's just like I don't want to do it.
But realistically,
I don't want to do it, and they're not making me mad that they're there.
Yeah.
Like again, they don't make me angry, so that's fine.
I think them going down is not the crime. Going down late is not the crime as it is going up early. If you put up.
Fight on Natty said, I can't say because it was mostly my wife and kids that we did it a week ago. I will say, if you are doing it the weekend before Thanksgiving or like the week before Thanksgiving, I get it. I think it makes sense to me if that's when your window sort of opens and you'd rather be doing that than enjoying your weekend after Thanksgiving. Like I'm chill with that. It's the people who start decorating like at the start of November who I think are absolutely insane. Yeah. Like let November be fall. To me, Christmas indicates winter. So long as it feels like fall, you should let the fall harvest season breathe, Right. Have your pumpkins and your orange leaves and stuff like that. Like let that stuff get its moment.
Fall ends on Thanksgiving.
And then you transition to
spiritually.
Winter. Spiritually.
It ends on Thanksgiving.
Yes.
So
fall
runs.
So personally, I wouldn't want to celebrate Thanksgiving somewhere where there was a Christmas tree already up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think spiritually, fall runs between when you lose your first game and Thanksgiving. So typically middle to end of September and Thanksgiving.
Well, and Pete Carroll, that was clockwork, the Pac-12 road opener.
Yeah.
Fight on Natty's also asked, this will be the last question, I swear. Artificial or real tree? We have an artificial tree. I'm not opposed to having a real tree. It's just a pain in the ass to get and then keep and then throw out.
The
artificial tree is very easy and I can live with it.
I love me an artificial tree. You're not going to find me going to the freaking tree lot and having to deal with putting it on the roof and then paying the kid to put it up there and then like bring it home. Then you have to deal with all the little stupid needles, all of that BS.
It's also harder to put
fire hazards,
ornaments
all those things.
on a real tree, because you don't get to control where the branches are. You just gotta have you be gaps, and it can be like leaning.
Yeah. The best real tree obviously is the highest ceiling, but the floor is so low, Although I say this, I think your fake tree, which I'm totally cool with, I enjoy and I prefer, should also look like a real tree.
Yeah, none of the like silver ones.
I don't have the heart to tell my dad that the white tree doesn't not for me, but it's for you. I enjoy that you're he's not listening to this 2.5 hours into this episode, but he could be. I enjoy that you enjoy your tree. I'm glad that your tree looks good. It's not for me. I'm not a white tree kind of guy. I'm a green tree kind of guy. That sounds weird. Anyways, I'm on 3 hours of sleep. And we've gone 2.5 hours.
I'm just saying.
And we'll be back 24 hours from now, 7 p.m. tomorrow with a special guest. To preview SC and UCLA, probably talk more Thanksgiving. I thought about, like, what if we did a combined 22 SC UCLA thing with Jake? But I think that's probably an off-season episode. Lamont says, Michael, you just told your dad his tree sucks. I didn't say his tree sucks. I said it's not for me. I'm not living there, so I don't have to, like, I'm happy they're happy. Yeah. All right. We'll be back tomorrow. Until then, we'll see ya.
See ya.
See ya.